On October 5th, authorities implemented new alterations towards the law regulating the hiring of non-resident workers, specifically for unspecialized labor and domestic helpers. In this special report, journalist Kelsey Willem takes a look at what exactly the changes imply, how they affect both employers and employees, and what this will mean for the future.
Macau has introduced new alterations to the law governing non-resident labor, specifically for unskilled and domestic workers. The changes came into effect on October 5th and have a large impact on how the two types of workers find jobs in the city. One of the primary changes is that domestic workers and unskilled labor can no longer come into Macau as tourists and try to find a job. First, the hiring party, either a company or individual, must apply to the Labor Affairs Bureau to get a quota to hire a non-resident worker by submitting documents justifying how long they want to hire the worker for what purpose, and on what salary. If this is approved, the employer has to then go to the Public Security Police Force to request an entry permit for work purposes.
And this is one of the changes of the law. You shall submit the copy of the passport of the worker, a picture, and the dispatch, and you will ask for a temporary title to enter in Macau for purposes of work. I don't know the times because it's not in the law. I'm not sure if the immigration department will issue that document immediately or not, but they will issue the document, and you need to send the document to the worker outside Macau, and the worker can travel to Macau, and in the border the worker will give that to the police.
Under the new law, the unskilled worker or domestic helper must be traveling in from outside of Macau, but does not have to be coming from their country of origin. Upon arriving at the border and presenting the temporary title for entry for work purposes, the worker next has to have their documents checked and compared with those submitted before by the employer. If all checks out, they're issued a temporary authorization to stay in Macau as a worker, the step before the blue card. If the temporary authorization is denied, the worker must return to where they arrived from and has to pay for their own repatriation, since the period of work and the employer's liability only starts after the temporary authorization to stay in Macau as a worker is issued. If successful, during a period of up to 45 days, the Immigration Department will process this application and prepare a blue card. And during this processing period, the worker is already allowed to work in Macau. However, if authorities find anything wrong with the documentation, such as false papers or previous criminal records in Macau, the worker can be sent back to their home country at the cost of the employer. For employees to be issued blue cards, a formal contract must be signed between the employer and the employee. The new measures differ from those that apply to specialized laborers, involving important points for those who are already in Macau, and in particular those who have lost or might lose their jobs.
If your employer terminates the contract today, and your blue card will expire in December, the date which is important is the date of the termination of the contract, not the blue card, because the blue card is attached to the contract.
For unspecialized workers and domestic helpers who have had their work relationship terminated and their employer has informed the Immigration Bureau of this, they have to leave Macau within 8 days. If they have worked for less than 6 months, this period is shortened to 2 days. During their remaining period of stay in Macau, the Public Security Police Force advises that they do not seek new employment. And for any non-resident to get a new blue card, they have to leave Macau and undergo all of the steps listed before. They also have to spend 6 months outside of Macau before getting a new authorization to work in Macau, with a few exceptions. The employer's authorization to hire the worker was revoked. The labor relation was terminated by mutual agreement between the employer and the employee. The labor relation was terminated without just cause or the unilateral termination of the contract by the employer. and termination of the labor contract with just cause by the worker. In these cases, the worker must maintain the same function they had previously held when finding a new job, and must go outside of Macau and wait for their new entry permit for work purposes. For authorization applications that have already been applied for when the contract terminates and contract expirations, employees are also not required to spend 6 months outside of Macau before attempting new employment. Other cases do involve the 6-month waiting period outside of Macau, especially when applying for jobs in different areas. But numerous questions still remain as to how the law is going to be implemented. The law was written before the city was engulfed in the worldwide pandemic, one which caused nearly 10,000 non-resident workers to leave the SAR, and has left doubts as to how fair it is to be kicking out non-residents so quickly when Macau is going to need workers for its recovery, especially since hiring, not firing, takes time.
I think that the original idea was good, but if the government can kind of look into it now and clarify if anyone that are still stuck in Macau, for example, and so they end their contract already in the end of September or even 1 month earlier, but they couldn't go back. And so if there is a way for them to contact a local agency and try to find another employer and get the contract, and so if that's allowed, I think that would be much easier for everyone.
Until the measures are lifted, non-Chinese, non-resident workers are still not allowed entry into Macau, meaning that no new non-resident workers are coming into Macau to refresh its workforce. As of the end of August, there were 182,711 non-resident workers in Macau, with nearly 30,000 domestic helpers, over 16,000 of which are from the Philippines and over 4,000 of which are from Indonesia. However, those still here continue to not always be treated as if they belong. Changes to the law, as well as a new law governing employment agencies, which comes into effect in March, have been lauded by lawmakers as improving the quality of workers and overall benefiting Macau. However, the changes were all conceived before the pandemic, with some calling for them to be put on hold.
Actually, on behalf of the employers, our sector, and the workers, I want to express to the government, it is good. Everyone thinks that the law amendment is good. It is good to stabilize society. However, they should learn from the Hong Kong government. Do not force the workers to leave Macau. Do not force us to hire some workers when we do not know where they are from. How can the workers enter Macau during this pandemic? They cannot leave or enter. The government should do like the Hong Kong government did and suspend the regulation first, and relax the regulation that allows the workers to go and work for others.
While some information on laws regulating the contracting of non-resident workers is available on the Labor Affairs Bureau website, the new law amendments are not yet available, and non-resident workers are appealing that the government at least publish more content in English, to allow workers the chance to know what their rights and responsibilities are, as well as asking to have a chance to express their thoughts on laws that affect them so directly before they come into effect.
They need to have a dialogue with us, okay? Because the law they are making is for us, and it's make happen, okay? We can tell them what side is sold to us. This is not a competition, yeah? We are not going to compete because they are our employer and we are our workers. But we need to have a dialogue with them, a communication with them before they implement a policy. They can call us, yeah? Or because we try to reach them, but there's no improvement. So we can tell them that, this law is hurt our butt. It's hurt our pocket, it's hurt with us, and treat us as a workers. You need to treat us like, you respect us like a human being, because we are a human being as well. We are domestic worker, but we are a human being as well.